Happy Friday, newsies. It is I, Becca Lori Hector. I am here with the next installment of Neurodiversity Newsstand. It is Friday, you guys, and here we are to share the news together. If you're new to my channel, this is my weekly vlog that I sum up the neurodiversity news that I share in my online groups, which are both on Facebook and LinkedIn. And I take our highlights and I kind of sum them up here for you guys in a little short video. So that you can keep up with the news if you didn't have a chance to read. So welcome. If you're returning to the channel, welcome back. I'm glad to see you guys here. It's exciting. This week we had so much news, so much to like really read through this week. But before we get into the news, let's talk about other stuff. Let's talk a little bit about my lesson from this week, because I had a nice learning curve this week, and it hit me with one of those aha moments, like when you're like, duh, I should have figured that out before. But in any case, I had it nonetheless, and so I will share it with you, even though it will probably seem quite obvious. It does to me now. But I know I've been talking to you guys a little bit about my struggle with seasonal depression and kind of that I struggle with it, that I have been struggling with it this year, that it just makes me feel so tired and just, I don't know, what's the word, just drained, and I don't have any energy to do anything, and I don't have any desire to do anything, and I feel uninspired and all kinds of other fun stuff. And then of course that leads directly into all the other self-talk, the negative self-talk loops that I live in, and so it's been kind of a struggle this winter in particular, because I really had a lot of things that I was hoping to get done over kind of like the holidays and over that kind of downtime and stuff like that, but I was just feeling terrible about it. So I was sort of struggling between, I know I have seasonal depression and I also know I have to get things done, and how do I deal with both of those things? And so I did what I know I should always do when I'm struggling, which was to reach out to my coach, and I had a great meeting with her. And we did a little session, and I talked through some of the things that I was worrying about, and I hadn't planned to really discuss with her the seasonal depression, though it had come up a couple of times before and things like that. But in any case, it came up again, and so we ended up talking about it. And as we were talking it through, I realized that this is something that's totally in my control, in a sense, right? We were talking about what's so hard about it. What's the hardest thing about it, the seasonal depression? And for me, the hardest thing about it is that there's nothing I can do about it. And it's like, no matter what planning I would do, no matter whatever I would do, I had no control about it. And then the other half of what's really hard about it is the guilt that all consumes me the entire time. So it starts for me usually in November, mid-November, and it kind of hangs out until about end of January, mid-February for me. And it's different for everybody, of course, but that's how it seems to be for me. So as I was talking about that, and I was talking about how I know that that's going to happen, but it's such a good time of the year because people are busy with the holidays, and so I can do all of these things without feeling like I'm ignoring other things and whatever. And I said, but it is, that really socially heavy time of year, and it's a lot of loaded with other kind of feelings and stuff around it. And so as we were kind of working through it, and I was talking about how guilty I feel about not getting done with the things I've promised to people that I would get done, or the things I promised myself more than anything that I would get done, is that beating myself up for it over and over and over again. And then I kind of had this moment with her, and I said, well, I know this about myself. It happens every year. It's undeniable, and I should probably start planning for it. And as the words came out of my mouth, I wish I could have just gone and sucked back and gone all the way back to November and taken that advice. That's what I wanted to do. But it was like it came out of my mouth, and I thought, yes, I know it's coming, just like I know the holidays are coming, just like I know everything else that's going to come is coming, right? And if I know that, why don't I plan accordingly, you big dummy, right? And so yes, next year, this 2020, the holiday season of 2020 in November, I'm going to do myself the favor of planning for my seasonal depression. Meaning, I'm going to lighten my load, man. I'm going to stop saying yes to so many things. I'm going to stop thinking that that time of year is the time of year to get projects done behind the scenes. It doesn't work for me. It makes it hard for me. And then I suffer through that period on top of my suffering through, right? It's like I compound the suffering with the guilt. So this year, I am going to plan for it. I am so excited for the holiday season coming up this year, just so I can try it out, because I want to know. But at the same time, I know the end to the seasonal depression is coming. The days are getting longer. The sun is getting stronger. And that will flip itself for me naturally. But and I don't want to rush through that. So let me not rush through it to the holiday season. Let me enjoy the creative season that's coming up for me. The spring is a very creative time for me. And so I'm going to enjoy that and know that as the holidays are coming up in the following year, I am not going to make the same mistake I always make. I am going to schedule on purpose around my seasonal depression, you guys. Just so annoying that I wasted another year with it, that was the solution and that's what I could come up with. Anyway, whatever. So that was my aha moment for this year, for this week. Really, in terms of working through some of the stuff that I've been working through. I'm also working on a book proposal, which I've been talking to you guys about because I'm struggling to get it done because of the seasonal depression. And it was something I promised myself I would do. It was one of those things. But I'm still working on it. I think I might have a title going on. I did some work with it with my coach and kind of planning out it a little bit and talking it through to somebody. And so I'm looking forward to getting some work done as this springtime comes up. But I hope if you too are a sufferer of seasonal depression, that my aha moment could be your aha moment too. So maybe your 2020 won't be so bad either. I guess that's it. That's really my learning curve of the week. That's what I wanted to share with you guys for this week. And with that, I say let's get to the news because we've got a ton of it. I mean, like a lot. All right. Sit ourselves up straight, get ourselves ready for the news, be all serious and whatnot. So here we go. First news story for this week. Interesting story, has me thinking, had a lot of people thinking, and I wanted to talk about it, I guess. It was pretty popular. So it came out of Learning Disability Today. It is called, Are Autism and ADHD Symptoms of the Same Underlying Condition? And I thought that was interesting, right? I mean, okay, they seem to travel together, right? We know they're all neurodiversities, and maybe, just maybe, they're components of each other. Maybe they're part of a bigger kind of concept that we haven't yet understood. And so it was with that I read the article. And it talks about some of the artificial distinctions we make between autism and ADHD, and it talks about some of the clusters of symptoms that we talk about when we talk about both of them and the overlap. And so it does a lot of uncovering. So it's a pretty detailed kind of science-y piece that if you have the patience to read through, I would suggest that you do, especially if you're someone who shares both conditions. It would be interesting for you guys to read it and tell me what you think. And nonetheless, it was a pretty popular piece this week, and that's what went on with that. I don't know why. I have nothing else to say about it. I guess I shouldn't try to say more. That's what it was about. If you want to read it, read it. I keep messing my glasses. Okay. Next, enough, moving on. Me re-fidgeting. I'm having a fidgetosis day, you guys. I'm sorry about that. Right. Mom claims landlord won't rent to daughter with autism. And that was in the local 12 news in Ohio. And the mom claimed that the landlord said to her, quote, "We don't rent to people like you." And there's really no way to confuse that statement. There's no way to take it another way. They had applied to go into an apartment, and they did the full background check and the whole deal and all of that, and then they were denied the apartment. And so after pursuing it for a little bit, that was the response they received. Isn't that lovely? So nice. So for those of you that ask me about disclosure all the time, and I tell you that the world isn't quite ready for us, this is what I mean. This is still going on. And so we need to think about that, and we need to remember that when we're thinking about disclosure and when we're talking about disclosure with other people, because they were refused a rental. So that's going on in Ohio. It made a bunch of us real mad, especially as we're always working towards some kind of interdependence with each other and kind of growing into the people that we are. That was a little upsetting. Okay, moving on. Next up for you guys, I have Chivisori's Notebook. This was a great piece, really interesting. So there was a piece refloating around about Daryl Hannah. It was a couple of years old, and she was sort of talking about what it was like when she was younger and things like that. And people have their opinions about Daryl Hannah, so don't be kind of dissuaded. So this article was called Institutionalization and Daryl Hannah and Autistic People Like Me. And I thought it was a really interesting article, but you have to get past the fact that Daryl Hannah's in the title, right? It definitely grabs you, and I know people have an opinion about her one way or another, and that's fine. Keep your opinion, have your opinion, doesn't matter to this story even. So the point I'm trying to make is that this story in particular isn't actually about Daryl Hannah, but it's about what made the difference in her life, what made her path go the way that it went, where she could be a successful person in society's eyes and also be autistic, and why that doesn't happen for all of us. And it talks about how some of the opportunities, some of the chances that she was given were the difference between kind of the way her life went and the way it could have gone, because she very well could have qualified for institutionalization herself. And so it was a really interesting kind of take on that scenario. And if you're interested in that, you can go ahead and have a look at that. Next up, we have out of Psychology Today from Erin Bullis and Abby Sester. I'm going to try it one more time. Sesterka. There we go. And it was in Psychology Today, and it was called Authenticity and Autism. This was one of my favorite pieces that came out this week. Of course, I love the word authenticity. I talk about authenticity all the time. So, of course, it grabbed my attention. And I was interested in reading it. And so what the subtitle of it is When Being True to Oneself Means Revealing Differences. And so the article talks about how for women on the spectrum, it's already so difficult for us to be recognized as possibly autistic that most of us are misdiagnosed and underdiagnosed and all of those things. And it talks about the kind of the all-encompassing, that's the word the all-encompassing exhaustion that comes with camouflaging and masking and all of the and passing, right? And the price that we pay for that. And the price that we pay for not camouflaging and masking, and kind of what the price is overall. And so I thought it was an interesting piece. I love that the two of them tag team and write together all the time. It's great. They're both autistic women who were diagnosed late in life, so it was a really interesting piece from that perspective. So I think you guys should give it a read. Next up in the notebook. Network Rail. Okay, so I was like on the fence about whether I should share it because it's not really like news, but it leads us into another conversation, which is what people ended up talking about underneath the article. So it was from Network Rail out of London. That the London Liverpool Street Station is going to be recognizing the hidden disability sunflowers. And if you don't know anything about the hidden disability sunflowers, they're making lanyards and little pins, and that's a way to let people know that you have a hidden disability without kind of, shouting it out. And if you're on public transportation, it's a way for them to recognize that about you and give you the help and assistance that you need. Now, I happen to think it's great. First of all, I love sunflowers, so I was stoked that they picked the sunflower, and I would like, yes, give me my lanyard. But on the other side of it is, of course, should we have to disclose in that way? Is it safe to point out that we're different in that way? And all of the other safety concerns that come along with it, which is something we've talked about. There were a couple of different tries at this kind of thing where people were putting something on their seatbelt so that as a driver, if they got pulled over, the police would know. And it can go both ways, and everybody kind of sits on the fence about it. And I think it depends upon your support needs and what you need as a human, whether that's helpful to you or not. But I thought it was an interesting conversation we all ended up having. So if you are interested in that conversation, please take a look at this article. And then, of course, you can hop. It was actually the Facebook group that talked about it the most. So you can hop into the Facebook group and check out what it is that everybody else has to say. Next up, this is another favorite of mine this week. Not necessarily has to be yours, but it was a favorite of mine. out of the Nova Scotia Advocate in Canada, Taylor Linloff, Autism Privilege, or the Realities of Autistic Adulthood in Nova Scotia. And so she talks about kind of what it is, what autism privilege is, and what people think, what privilege they think we have, right? And then the reality of that, right? And the reality of what we suffer through. So another talking about the misdiagnosis of women, another talking about the underdiagnosis of women, and also talking about the exhaustion of passing, right? Again, the masking, camouflaging, and that exhaustion. But I saved her last two lines I loved, and so this is the quote I leave you with of hers, which was, we don't suffer from autism, we suffer from stigma, which is true, right? We do have difficult days with our autism, but the overarching trauma and suffering comes with the way that everybody else processes our autism. And so that's really an interesting place to look at it from. It was a really great piece, Taylor. I loved it. I saw it shared a whole bunch all over the world. So I hope that you felt that love, because it was a really, really great piece. Really enjoyed it. I hope you guys go check it out. Next up, it just snuck in under the wire, but it did come out today in the Washington Post from Haley Moss. She writes about parents' online sharing can be particularly problematic for autistic kids. Here's why. So Haley is tackling that the autism parents sharing and the sharing of details and photos and stuff about their kids, and the damage that can be done when that is occurring, not only to those children, but to the rest of the community. And I thought that was nice. She actually interviewed Krista Holman's Krista Holman's, the neurodivergent rebel. So she's quoted in there a few times by Haley because she was interviewed for the article. Really great piece, great one for sharing. Take a look at it. Tell me what you think. We haven't yet had a conversation about it, but I have a feeling it's going to be one that we talk about. And so if I have to talk about it again next week, I shall. Let's see, next up, reducing workplace stress. Okay, this one comes from Australia, from Barb Cook of Spectrum Women, and now of Neuroemploy. Congratulations, Barb Cook. But she writes about reducing workplace stress, working together on self-care. So she talks a lot about how when those of us who, even if we are diagnosed, how when we're in a workplace environment, we are constantly working at that extra level where we might be masking some, and we're working to please other people all day long, and we're not at all paying attention to what we need and what our self-care is requiring of us, and the damage that can be done. So how can we help each other to do better? Right? And so that's what Barb is writing about. She's also doing a self-care webinar, I think, this week. So take a look at that or head over to her website, the new website, Neuroemploy. And that's what I've got from that one. Ooh, right. Okay. The Aspergian. This one came out in the Aspergian. If you guys remember, a couple of weeks back, we talked about a blog called Unemployable. And it was all about, Lady Snessa wrote about her experience going through, the search with an employment counselor and what that was like and why that was difficult. And this is part 2. So part 2 of Unemployable came out this week by Lady Snessa on the Aspergian. And I love the subtitle of it. An autistic woman sticks to her plan anyway. I love it. I loved it. I thought it was so great. Okay, so she talks about her experience and what she plans to do and all this stuff and what she did next, right? And at the end of it, she said, I saved a quote from her also, because at the end of it, she says this really awesome thing. And she says, it's not about being better, but maximizing my unique, clumsy effort. I thought that was so great, because yes, it is. It's not about being perfect. It's not about getting everything right. It's not about that at all. And it's not about, like being a better you, right? Or being a better human or any of those things. But it's about using your strengths to do the best that you can. Right? And it's very personal, but it's about, maximizing what you're good at and maximizing what comes easy to you, frankly. I mean, half the reason that I publicly speak is because it's one of the easiest things that I do. It just is easy for me. And that doesn't mean that I should ignore it or just say, oh, I don't have to pay attention to it because it's easy for me. I only have to work on the hard things. That's a crazy, crazy notion to live by. Foolish, even. And so I love that she wrote us the second part, and it came out this week in the Aspergian. So take a look at that, especially if you read part one. The part one is linked to it in the story if you want to go back and read it. And next up, okay, so we're going to go into events and the like right now, and that kind of thing. But before I do, I just want to remind you that any of the articles or events or books or whatever I end up talking about on Newsstand will, of course, be linked in the description for you to read for yourself. All right, so next up, I want to talk about our golden moment. This is a movement being put together by Tacey Traverso, who is also the Autistic Wolf. If you know her on LinkedIn, you know her by her name. And if you know her on Facebook, you know her by the Autistic Wolf. But she is putting together our golden moment, which is going to be wow, with the words today, an inaugural coming out day for autistics and neurodivergent people. And so a way for those of us who are diagnosed but have not yet disclosed that we are autistic or are not living openly autistic and want to, that is your day. April 1st of 2020, the very first day of April, Autism Month, right? And we're going to turn the joke around, man, and we're going to take it back, and we're all going to kind of push towards that. So she's got some really great partners in the community going on for it. You guys can get involved if you're ready to disclose, or if you have done, you just want to support others who want to disclose on our new golden moment, which is going to be April 1st of 2020. So I will give you the link to that for you to get more information and for you to go ahead and get involved. And next up after that, we had a meme. It came out of the LinkedIn group this week from Rosie Weldon. I loved it. I'm the one who brought it over from LinkedIn to Facebook. Everybody loved it there too. And I wanted to share it with you guys because it was a really good meme. It was all about, it was the old kind of idea of what happens when you try to shove a square peg into a round hole. But she did a nice little kind of colorful drawing, and it was with brain shapes instead of just shapes. And I thought that was great. And I really liked it. And it was kind of a new take on an old idea. And so Rosie, really well done. Shout out to you. I'm sharing it with you guys. And that's it for everybody else on the planet and what they're doing in the autism community this week. I want to take a moment to share with you what I've got to share with you for this week and what I'm doing. So I just had a fantastic interview come out called Bridge the Gap with Jessica. And you can take a look at that interview. I will link it in the bottom, and I got to talk about the things that I find important about getting a diagnosis and kind of what I kind of learned from all of it. And it was a really fun interview. She's a really, really good person. And so please take a look at that Bridge the Gap interview. I will send you the link. And last up, I sit here, it is the very last day of January, which means I have to record my February installment of Asking Spectrum Women, which is a monthly Q&A that I do for Spectrum Women magazine. It comes out on their YouTube channel, and then I also post it here. But I need questions, because I'm in February and I want to answer your questions. So if you have a burning question and that you want to see me answer in Asking Spectrum Women in February, please go ahead and you can either comment here or you can email me your questions to info@beccalaurie.com, and I will go through. We kind of vote on the questions, decides which ones we should answer this month. So hopefully yours will get picked, and if not, hopefully I'll get to it in the following month. But that is going to be coming out next Friday. I'm going to try and get it recorded for next Friday. So you have a week to come up with some questions if there's something you'd like to see me answer. And with that, we are done. I'm done. Almost. So for those of you that stuck around for the end of the videos, you might have remembered that last week I talked to you guys about doing a second video a week that I was only going to release on YouTube, and I'm not going to share it across my social media. It's just for those of you that enjoy my videos enough that you want more of what I talk about kind of in the beginning of Newsstand, about my journey and what I'm struggling with and how the techniques I'm using to get through it, and how I walk the journey. Maybe so we can share that journey a little bit together. So I am happy to say that the first one came out this week. I am bringing back Becca's Backyard. So for those of you who have been at the channel for a while, been watching me give and try all of these different things on YouTube, I am taking back Becca's Backyard. I am taking back the name, and I'm going to be reviving it in a new way. So what I'm going to be doing is on Tuesdays, usually in the afternoon, I'm thinking on Tuesdays though, I will do a live stream on YouTube and kind of share with you that way. And what I'm hoping that does is encourage us to kind of have some interaction live, and you can feel like you can talk to me right then. And also, if you catch it live, great, and if not, you'll get to see the pre-recorded version. But it's just another way for it to be different for us, another way for it to stand out from the other material that we're sharing. So I'm going to be doing a live Becca's Backyard, or as we're calling it now, Becca's Backyard Live. So I'm doing Becca's Backyard Live on Tuesdays. And so what I highly suggest is that if you haven't, you take a moment and go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And please hit the notification bells, because even if it's Newsstand that you're looking for, I do put them out on Fridays, but I put it out at different times every week. And so to make sure that you get it, you want to hit the notifications bell. And if you want to get a new version of Becca's Backyard, or get yourself back to the old version of Becca's Backyard, because it's not going to be that different, go ahead and subscribe and hit the notifications bell, because I'm not sharing it anywhere else on social media. I'm just going to do a live stream here, put it here for those of you that want to watch, and we'll see how it goes. Yeah, so look for that on Tuesday. The first return of Becca's Backyard is back and up now, so you can catch up with it now. I pre-recorded that one because I couldn't figure out how to live stream in time, but I'm going to figure it out for this week, I swear. And that's about it for me, you guys. It's Becca Laurie Hector, your host of Neurodiversity Newsstand, and that's it for January of 2020. Take a look at some of the articles I shared. Have an amazing weekend. Share with me what you do in the comments. Share with me what you hate. Share with me what you like. Let me know if you like it. Give me a thumbs up. Let me know if you hate it. Give me a thumbs down. Just communicate, you guys. And thanks as always to those of you regulars who watch all the time, and for my 9 thumbs uppers, we're still 9. I'm looking to grow that a little bit. So I hope you guys enjoy what I'm doing, and I hope to see you next week on Neurodiversity Newsstand.